So Teresa, when you want, we can start.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, distinguished experts, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all participants joining us from around the world. I am Teresa Moreira, the head of the Competition and Consumer Policies branch of UNCTAD, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the webinar on consumer protection in the age of artificial intelligence, organized by the United Nations Trade and Development, UNCTAD, to launch our recent technical note and checklist on artificial intelligence and consumer protection. We are delighted to have with us today a diverse audience of consumer protection officials, policymakers, academics, and representatives of international organizations. Your presence, your participation reflects the growing importance of understanding and governing artificial intelligence from the perspective of consumer protection. As we know, artificial intelligence is transforming the way consumers search for products, receive information, make purchases, and interact with businesses. It offers great opportunities for innovation and inclusion, enabling more personalized digital experience and more efficient enforcement tools for consumer protection authorities. At the same time, AI brings new and complex challenges. Opaque algorithms, manipulative designs such as dark patterns and confirmed shaming, biased and discriminatory outcomes, and increased risks to privacy and safety. For consumer protection agencies, this duality means that we must harness the potential of AI while ensuring fairness, transparency, and accountability in its use. UNCTAD has been at the forefront of this discussion through our intergovernmental group of experts on consumer protection law and policy and the informal working group on consumer protection in e-commerce that was established many years ago. Today's launch marks another important milestone, the release of UNCTAD's recent technical note on artificial intelligence and consumer protection and its accompanying checklist. This document, prepared by Professor Christine Rifa from University of Reading, academic coordinator of the informal working group, and my colleague Valentina Rivas, program manager officer at UNCTAD's Competition and Consumer Policies branch, was developed with the valuable support of the Office of Competition and Consumer Protection of Poland, UOKiK, and the Defensoría del Consumidor of El Salvador. The informal working group has produced a document that highlights the opportunities and risks that AI brings for consumers and regulators, showcases concrete examples of how authorities are already using AI tools to enhance their work, and provides a practical roadmap through the checklist to help agencies assess whether, when, and how to deploy AI responsibly in support of their enforcement and monitoring functions. The UN Guidelines for Consumer Protection that, as you know, were revised 10 years ago in 2015, contain a specific section on e-commerce, recommending that member states should work towards enhancing consumer confidence in e-commerce by the continued development of transparent and effective consumer protection policies, ensuring a level of protection that is not less than that afforded in other forms of commerce. This webinar is being organized in the framework of the UNCTAD Informal Working Group on Consumer Protection in E-commerce that, as I mentioned, was established by the IGE on Consumer Protection in 2017 to highlight best practices to facilitate information exchange and consultations. And the fruits of its work will be today shared with you, as I mentioned. So today we have the opportunity to delve into a compelling and highly relevant subject, one that resonates not only with the areas of electronic commerce, consumer protection and technology, but also touches every internet user and consumer protection agency concerns around the world. Before concluding, let me emphasize that UNCTAD will continue to work on this important topic since artificial intelligence is evolving rapidly, and so must our approaches to protecting consumers, strengthening institutional capacities, and fostering responsible innovations. We also look forward to continuing our collaboration with our partners and with all of you to ensure that AI serves consumers and contributes to sustainable and inclusive development. Once again, I thank you all for joining us today, and I wish you a very engaging discussion. Valentina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Teresa, for your welcoming remarks. All of you, whether knowingly or not, have already interacted with AI through recommendation system, chatbots, targeted advertising, or automated decisions. With digital markets changing faster than ever, our consumer protection strategies must keep pace. AI is not just changing how consumers buy, decide, and interact, it is also changing the very foundations of trust, fairness, and choice in the digital economy. While 68% of the world is online, 2.6 billion people remain offline, and of course, maybe many of those in developing countries. If consumer protection in AI evolves unevenly, the benefits of digital transformation may concentrate in a few hands, deepening global inequalities. Over the past 2 years, UNCTAD, within the framework of the Informal Working Group on Consumer Protection in E-commerce, has examined how artificial intelligence may affect consumer protection. Through a series of thematic webinars and knowledge exchanges, this group has identified both risks and possible benefits while gathering insights from authorities currently exploring AI solutions. The insights gathered have informed a comprehensive technical note that will be presented by Christine Rifa, the academic coordinator of the working group. And after her presentation, we will hear from Martina Dersinek, Director of International Cooperation from the Office of Competition and Consumer Protection of Poland, and Mrs. Yusun Moon, Chair of the ISO Committee of Consumer Policy, COPOLCO. The second part of today's webinar will be dedicated to the introduction of the UNCTAD checklist for consumer protection agencies deploying AI. Following the presentation, we will hear from Mr. Luis Espejo Céspedes, Enforcement Specialist from the Supervision Directorate of INDECOPI, that is the National Institute for the Defense of Competition and Protection of Intellectual Property of Peru. So we do have a very packed agenda today, and we are glad to have so many agencies and partners connected. If you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A, and we will try to read this at the end. And well, if not possible, we will try to respond this by email. So without further ado, please allow me to give the floor to Christine for the presentation of the technical note. Christine, I will be sharing your slide.
Great. Thank you very much, Valentina, and also Teresa and the entire team at UNCTAD that has actually enabled all this work to take place and supported it all the way through. It's my great privilege to present the result of what the Informal Working Group on Consumer Protection in E-commerce has been working on when it comes to the implications of artificial intelligence for consumer protection. The work that the working group has undertaken and culminated in the technical note finds its origin in previous work that myself and Liz Cole had carried out on EMFTech, and that we had launched with UNCTAD's collaboration and also presented at the RPP in 2023. Now, the working group was busy in the last 2 years having events, having discussions to look at what it really meant on the ground to work with AI. And what the technical note does is list a series of risks and opportunities, but also look at some of the ways that agencies can actually harness the powers of AI and technology more generally in order to help those consumers. So let me start first by the main risks and opportunities. And perhaps if you're less familiar, it would be a good place to start. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. It will offer very exciting new possibilities for consumers. It can help with more personalized digital experiences that are tailored to individual needs and preferences. However, it also is very cool. Understand when it's used, the way businesses interact with consumers. It also offers a range of opportunities to enhance consumer protections. So on the one hand, we have risks, but on the other, we have enhanced possibilities to protect consumers. So it is a little bit of a weird thing to talk about AI because, and it has changed also since the time we started thinking about what to do to today. But the technical note practically highlights how AI could have the potential to transform enforcement. And effectively, it takes the view that enforcement that is normally by and large fairly reactive at national level can become a lot more preventive. So we can actually see authorities identify harmful conduct before they spread. And there is a possibility for AI to really help in anticipating needs. The same technologies that empower consumers can also expose them to significant risk. And we see, as it's already been highlighted, a host of problems along the lines of manipulative practice and really creating problems. Few concrete examples you've already heard: dark patterns, when machine learning powers tricks that can actually push you towards purchases you would not otherwise have envisaged. We also see a lot of AI-based profiling that can result in discriminatory outcome for consumers, either being denied credit or insurance or a job opportunity. And there's also a problem that was highlighted in our work by India, where firms might exaggerate AI washing, it's called, or falsify their AI capabilities, therefore misleading consumers into believing that some products are innovative when in fact they might not be. So there are real and present concerns across jurisdictions. And often it is vulnerable consumers who are most affected. But beyond individual harms, there are also systemic risks. AI system can entrench market concentration, they can reinforce dominant positions because a handful of technology firms control the data, the models, and the infrastructure that underpins AI. And this risks undermining competition and consumer choice. AI also brings environmental challenges, and I am really sorry that the note couldn't expand more, but I think that is really an area where we all going to have in future to come and think about how this fairly useful tool will actually impact use of energy and raw materials. And indeed, the UNCTAD Digital Economy report shows that integrating large language models into search engines could quadruple energy use per query. So at the moment, such environmental costs are very much hidden, but they probably need to be also taken into account in our discussion. Finally, some persistent digital divides mean that billions of people remain excluded from AI-driven benefits. And this is why a robust regulatory framework is so critical to integrate consumer protection principles into AI governance and ensure that these technologies truly serve the public interest. And that was part of the idea that underpinned the research that was carried out on what could be done to harness AI to strengthen consumer protection through AI regulation. So to do so, agencies need some new regulatory tools, and they need those tools to tackle algorithmic harm and manipulation. They need some procedural powers to investigate and act on harmful systems, and they need some substantive rules to set clear limits for high-risk applications. There is some particular attention also that needs to be paid to the needs of developing countries where resources and capacities may be more limited. Now, what we found originally in the UNCTAD report and then carrying out more research within the informal working group is that despite many challenges that are posed by the use of AI, many agencies are already making important strides in using AI to enhance enforcement. At this point, I just want to say, though, that even if agencies are not using AI, the use of some technological tools that are mentioned can really impact positively practice. So whilst we talk of AI today, it's important to remember that any agency at whatever stage in the journey can actually get some gains. Now, AI and the use of AI in enforcement authorities' practice has really developed in the last few years. And we have examples all around the world. In Korea, the authority uses an AI platform to improve dispute resolution. In the Netherlands, the authority uses AI to detect misleading commercial practices, even scanning audio recordings. In Peru, AI is used to transcribe phone calls to help monitor spam calls to consumers. In Poland, there is a fantastic tool to scan contract terms, and there is further work being done to develop tools to detect dark patterns. In Thailand, AI is used for complaint, triage, and online advertising monitoring. And in Zambia, it's seen as a useful tool to integrate chatbots and market surveillance systems into case management. But to use AI effectively, data quality and institutional capacity are essential. AI systems are only as good as the data that feed them. And I think that was something recurrent and that continues to be true to date. Poor data leads to poor outcomes. For consumer protection agencies, this means ensuring that information used to train and operate AI tool is clean, structured, and representative. And to achieve this, the agencies need to invest in a comprehensive data governance cycle. And that will include data collection, be it from consumer complaints, compliance records, market surveillance, or even social media monitoring. These data sets must be large enough and diverse enough to capture real market behavior. There's also some need to invest in pre-processing, transforming raw information into structured, usable formats. And that involves a lot of cleaning duplicates or incomplete entries in a pre-existing database, standardizing taxonomies, and ensuring consistency across systems. There's also work to be done on the ongoing quality assurance of the data that is being used. That includes regular testing, auditing of AI models to detect any anomalies, some bias, or any issues in performance over time. And that process, we hear more and more from the authorities saying that it is key to preserving consumer trust and ensuring that the automated tools that are being used remain aligned with ethical and legal standards. Now, the technical note stresses that data must also be representative, particularly of vulnerable and digitally excluded groups, to avoid replicating existing inequalities in enforcement outcomes. Without representative data set, AI tools risk seeing only certain consumers or problems whilst ignoring others. In parallel, many agencies, especially in developing countries, still lack the infrastructure, the expertise, the resources that are needed to deploy AI effectively. So building their technological capacity is therefore just as important as improving data. Now, to build technological capacity, there is a number of things that the technical note brings to the fore. It includes recruiting technologists and data scientists who can design, test, and monitor AI applications. It includes training enforcement officers to understand how the AI works, interpret findings, make informed decisions, and so on and so forth, and also investing in IT infrastructure. And that will include secure data storage, cloud-based system, and reliable connectivity. Robust cybersecurity is also essential, it goes without saying, to protect sensitive consumer data and maintain some institutional credibility. Now, given the global nature of digital markets and AI development, international cooperation seems essential. Joint tool development, knowledge sharing, and funding partnerships can help ensure that all countries, especially developing ones, can benefit from AI safely and equitably. And recently, the UN General Assembly resolutions and the UN Secretary General's AI advisory body have reinforced the need for inclusive, right-based governance. The Global Digital Compact similarly calls for balanced and sustainable digital development. Now, UNCTAD plays a very important role as a facilitator of that dialogue, of that technical assistance and South-South cooperation in this space. So what do we do with that technical note? What could be the action points from today? The technical note concludes with some key suggestions for action. It addresses its message to consumer protection agencies, but also to policymakers. To consumer protection agencies, it calls for working collectively to adopt and promote ethical and effective AI practices. To lead efforts to educate consumers about AI-related risk, and to invest in the technological and human resources needed to deploy AI. And this cannot work unless there is also engagement in regional and international cooperations. To policymakers, the message is that developing inclusive and transparent governance frameworks for AI is absolutely vital, and ensuring that these are coherent with existing consumer protection rules is a must. So for me, in closing, I would like to highlight that AI has the potential to transform consumer protection for the better. But it is not as easy as that. There is no magic wand. It can only be transformative if it is approached with care, collaboration, and clear safeguard.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your clear presentation. And let's now open the section for comments from Martina Dersignac from the Office of the Competition and Consumer Protection of Poland, and Mrs. Yusun Mung from the Committee of Consumer Policy from COPOLCO of International Standard Organization. So let's start with Martina. The WCAG Brutes, as it was barely mentioned by Christine, is a system that actually is a concrete example of how AI can strengthen enforcement by detecting unfair contract terms. And so based on that experience, how would you describe the process of designing an AI tool that are both effective and aligned with the human-centric and right-based approach to AI that the technical note advocates? Martina, if you can answer in between 8-10 minutes, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Valentina, and I'm very happy to take you through this experience, and also thank you to Christine for this wonderful introduction and overview of the really excellent technical note. And let me start by underlying the profound impact that AI has, and it is really very brilliantly outlined in the note that we are presenting today, because it is important to answer this question, Valentina, in a wider context. And the note provides a very insightful overview of most important aspects of AI, and it captures really the central paradox of our age, which is that artificial intelligence protects by the very same means through which it dominates. So we all need to find our ways to deal with this. Given that consumer now is really a user embedded in predictive systems that not only learn from their behavior, but also to facilitate choice, which is a good thing, but also to they aim to shape our choices, and that's the tricky part of it. And consumer protection, respectively, takes place in digital architectures that guide behavior before the consumer even becomes aware of it. So fairness really resides deeper in design and in the structure of the choice architecture, not only in the surface and in its legal presentation. So we are really witnessing how consumer protection becomes much more complex, and we are really also seeing that regulation increasingly incorporates the aspect of defending human autonomy inside environments that predict and influence our choices. And given all this, public authorities face very difficult challenge trying to keep up with this novel and dynamic, very dynamic transformations. And in order to keep up, we have to embrace technology ourselves. AI may also mean a very significant transition in the public sphere, as Christine has just mentioned. And the traditional instruments of protection may also become more effective and efficient systems aiding human work and oversight. So integrating AI into our work has a dual purpose. We must both use technology to our benefit, and in this process, we can also use it to familiarize ourselves with it in order to maximize our understanding of it and its impact on consumers. But integrating AI into public institutions also incorporates important challenges. And I would like to point out two most important challenges. First is that we have very considerable resource constraints, so we need to be smart about how we approach it in order to be able to even do it. And of course, we have our accountability and our commitment to the public good, meaning that we need to ensure responsible implementation of AI solutions. And building such technological capacity, of course, ideally requires multiple types of new skills on board of public institutions, from lawyers, specialized lawyers, through data scientists, user experience specialists, behavioral experts, and so on, who could work together to decode how algorithms influence consumer behavior, and who could also help develop tools to our own use. But we know that this is difficult, and hardly any agency has resources to do this. So we find ways to do it given our own resources, and this ranges from in-house projects to international cooperation. And of course, international cooperation is a very important resource in this respect, because it's cost-free basically. So this is why it's really important that we keep discussing this and helping each other. So at WCAG, despite limited resources, we found ways to develop AI tools such as Arbus, which was just mentioned. And it is a system designed to detect unfair contract clauses. We are also now developing a solution to detect dark patterns. At our authority, we don't have any data scientists, and all projects and activities which are related to AI are implemented by the very same people who run cases, investigate consumer infringements, who are working in dedicated project teams based on externally funded projects. And as part of their additional activities, they educate themselves on novel technologies, they develop and consult concepts that are later technically verified by externally contracted specialists, again, due to our external funding sources. In our case, it's the EU funds. And as these solutions are not simply handed over to us, but are developed in a bottom-up way and participatively by our experts or with our experts, we ensure along the way that all necessary legal and ethical safeguards are in the center of this process. So in other words, our staff is in the process of developing AI solutions and can oversee this entire process from scratch, and they can also learn about this from the very beginning and become conscious and mindful of different aspects. And even with this only newly acquired technical expertise, this allows us to gain the needed expertise for in-house use, responsible in-house use, and also proper development of those tools and oversight. And we managed to balance the development of those tools with the legal and ethical safeguards. So in effect, our approach foresees that the staff is truly the owner in control of those systems, aware of their functions and their limitations once the tool is developed, but also along the way in design. As a public body, we are aware that we should be a model in applying legal and ethical safeguards in the use of AI, but also this should not prevent us from integrating technology into our work. And in order to share this first experience we had with the AdBoost tool, we drafted white paper. It's called White Paper on Advancing Consumer Law Enforcement with AI, and it discusses different aspects that should be considered in developing AI tools by consumer agencies. We outline both legal and ethical elements of this process, as well as technical, such as data mentioned by Christine, or organizational aspects, basically also relating to the fact that to the issue of dealing with the resource constraints by agencies. We wanted to present this process of integrating AI as available on an in-house basis for everybody, regardless of the resources. There is always ways to try and to be able to do this, but outlining different aspects that have to be considered along the way. And we really emphasized also the fact, the limitations of AI tools, and also the fact that their role is in aiding our work rather than replacing it. That's very important because we all, of course, are very, we are learning, everybody, how to use AI even on a daily basis and privately, and we all need to be aware of its limitations in order to be able to effectively and responsibly use it. And the same really applies for our work, which is really important, which is why it's really important that we are participating in the process of developing of the tools, because then we are understanding it much better, and we are much better aware of its limitations. And then from this experience, we also, basing on this experience, we have participated in the development of the checklist together with UNCTAD, with El Salvador, the checklist for consumer protection agencies deploying artificial intelligence. I understand it will be presented later. We also continue this work right now, cooperating with an ISPEN, which is an international network of consumer protection agencies, and with the very same aim of encouraging responsible use of AI across jurisdictions. So today launched technical note and checklist are the very fundamental documents that support this shared learning. And I really would like to thank UNCTAD, to Valentina, and to Professor Christine Rifa for developing and coordinating development of these resources. In the age of AI and all the complexity it involves, we need trust and expertise, which we can achieve through high quality resources such as UNCTAD documents, and through support that we can offer each other through international cooperation. So again, thank you very much for hosting this this launch and for supporting this work to UNCTAD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martina. And as the takeaway that I keep from your presentations, that you show how agencies can successfully build AI capabilities even with limited resources. You did this with your current team of technicians and your legal team, and of course, international cooperation, as you mentioned, which it's a powerful example of the start from where you are approach and do as you can with what you have. So thank you very much. And let me now move to Mrs. Moon from ISO. The technical note identifies fragmentation in AI governance across jurisdictions. How can ISO standards contribute to building a more coherent and globally trusted framework for AI in consumer protection? And what is Copolco's perspective on consumer protection and AI? Moon, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll share can you see?
Yes.
Okay. It is not. Can you
Yes,
see it?
perfect.
Thank you so much. Good morning and afternoon. Copolco Chair, Eun-Sung Moon. And most of all, congratulations to UNCTAD on the launch of the technical note. And I strongly support this vision. And I'd like to share the how Copolco can join this effort. So let me start a short introduction of Copolco and ISO standards. So at Copolco, we turn standard into real consumer impact. So this is where consumer policy meets international standards. So standards make sure the standard work for people everywhere. So Copolco ensures every ISO standards protect and empower consumers. We advise the ISO Council on priorities that shape the future of standards. We connect 133 countries and partners, such as UNCTAD, OECD, and Consumers International, turning shared values into standards. And we drive trust, safety, fairness, and inclusion worldwide. And here's how we turn policy into standards. Privacy by design, product recall, consumer vulnerability, accessible design, drinking water. So each began as a consumer issue and became a global ISO standards. So let me describe the power of ISO standards in the AI era. AI is transforming our world, but ISO's global goal remains the same: to make technology serve people. So ISO standards turn technology into trust and innovation into inclusion. Then how? So in history, no innovation ever became trusted and survived without standards. From electricity to the internet or cars, to safety and trust followed standards. So today, AI moves faster than law, regulation. Standards try to close that gap. So as a comment, the technical note also highlights the same gap between rapid AI development and slower policy regulation adoption. Global standard, global protection. Regulation stop at borders, but standards cross them. They bridge fragmented AI governance, prevent double standards, and created a shared global framework. that is how ISO standards protect consumers everywhere. So this is exactly where UNCTAD technical note is so important. It pushes for global coherence, not isolated rules. So how ISO standards deliver trust in AI? AI standards bring clarity and confidence. They set a common language, risk rules, and accountability framework, and governance and fairness across the borders. ISO IC Subcommittee 42, Artificial Intelligence, has already 39 AI standards published and 48 standards in progress, building human-centered AI. AI. So this can complement UNCTAD call for clear governance and accountability frameworks. So ISO view advancing the ISO UNCTAD joint paths for digital inclusion. This reflects COPOCO's commitment to advancing cooperation with UNCTAD. Together, we can move from principle to practice and ensure inclusive progress for all. AI changes lives, but AI races ahead of consumer rights. Hidden algorithms decide without transparency and accountability. AI depends on consumer data, yet privacy is ignored. The digital divide widens, leaving billions behind. Without standards, AI becomes unchecked power, not shared progress. So as a comment, UNCTAD note underscore these same challenges in global AI governance. So we must ask these questions. Is AI serving consumers or the other way around? Do people still have the right to know, right to decide, and right to diffuse? Can AI be trusted without the transparency? Without global standards, how can trust cross the borders? So UNCTAD technical note also calls for stronger consumer participation and consumer empowerment. This aligns with the COPOCO priorities. So COPOCO's key suggestion. The first, consumer data sovereignty. Consumers must control their data. And second, protect digital consumer rights to know, to decide, and to act. And then third, expand safety to system safety, like algorithm and data with preventive safeguards before harm happens. And finally, make digital inclusion global mandate so no one is left behind. So this proposal directly responds to UNCTAD call for inclusive cross-border collaboration on digital inclusion. So joint initiatives, digital inclusion for all. So we propose a joint initiatives between UNCTAD and ISO, bringing global policy and standards together. So the goal is to create a global guidelines promoting digital inclusion and consumer empowerment in the AI era. So here inclusion means not only access, but also fairness and accountability, protecting vulnerable consumers and building trust. So together, UNCTAD and ISO can ensure no consumers is left behind. So UNCTAD note highlights these same global coherence need, so standards can make that coherence possible. Last slide. I believe that UNCTAD technical note will set a foundation, so COPOCO will help translate it into action through ISO standards. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Moon. And thank you. And thank you for highlighting the essential role of standards in ensuring that AI is safe, fair, and trusted. Global interoperability matters, and these standards can help bridge fragmented governance approaches and support protection that follows consumers across the borders. So we have now explored both the opportunities and the regulatory challenges of AI. And in the next segment, we move from why to how, with a practical checklist for agencies deploying AI. I will now pass the moderation to Christine that will walk us through how we got to collectively decided in the working group to draft this checklist.
Great, thank you very much, Valentina. So I would like to thank the two speakers that have just shared some of their thoughts on the role of the technical note, but also what we can do with it next, emphasizing a few points that I think are very important and that they've made. One is that there's many ways to deal with AI, and the example of Poland shows how with very little resources, they've actually worked wonders, illustrating that point very well, I think. We had a question from the floor. I don't know if we're doing questions as we go, or whether, no, Valentina is saying there's no time. So we will respond individually, apologies. But I think the message has to be that AI cannot replace the humans right now. It has to be something that makes the life of the officer at the enforcement agency easier to detect any behavior that would be contrary to legal requirements. What I also note, and I think is interesting, is that standards may be a helpful way to move forward, because international consumer protection does not exist. We know that. The UNCTAD guidelines are providing a very good picture of what good national consumer protection should look like, but it does not have yet the reach. It cannot be applied in a country. It has to be taken on by a government as something that they would want to implement. And therefore, in the interim, since AI is going so fast, maybe standards could provide a very important path to bridging that gap. So bridging the gap was also part of the discussion we had when we were moving from the technical note, thinking what to do next. And obviously, it was like, how do you operationalize all those principles? And we indeed were very aware when we started the work of the work of Poland, but also other agencies. The CMA is another example. The FTC at the time also had done some work on use of AI. And it was looking at what agencies had done and what they could agree on would make a first standard effectively. The checklist for me is a little bit of a precursor to something that could become what agencies aim to do, looking at developing solutions. And then, of course, we've got another bit of a project maybe for the future on what is best practice and what do we aim for. But the checklist is really not my work, but the work of the agencies. who started looking at the technical note, of course, that they were privy to, but also looking within their own practice. It was a very interesting piece of work, and it's a shame that El Salvador is not with us today to also give their perspective, because they were very useful in trying to check in. We talked about inclusivity and making sure that there is everyone's view represented. So the checklist is very much, how do we do it? What are the sort of things the technical note was talking about that are actually really important? And that is what the agencies themselves thought. So I'll hand over the floor to Valentina to present the content with thanks very much to Poland and to El Salvador for the work they produced on that piece. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. And well, without repeating myself, we know that AI offers tremendous potential. We had already discussed it. But the success of the tools, or I'm so sorry. Am I okay here? Yes, I am sorry. So yes, the successful application that this really works, it's not a given. And that was the starting point for developing this checklist. We know that not all authorities operate on equal footing. Some have data scientists and research programs. Others are just taking their first digital steps. You will see, for example, in the technical note and also in the checklist, countries like Zambia starting to develop their own AI tools with, as we said, the resources that they have in the agencies, and looking for some international cooperation too. The checklist is designed to support agencies in making informed and context-appropriate decisions about the potential role of AI in their work. So the checklist does not prescribe a model. It provides a flexible framework applicable everywhere, while still allowing each authority to reflect its unique circumstances. The checklist is divided, well, it has 15 key considerations, or 15 questions, which fall into two broad areas. AI, the practical and organizational elements that you can see to your left, understanding the problem AI will solve, setting achievable goals, building and training multidisciplinary teams, securing funding, preparing and managing data, integrating with existing systems, and continuously monitoring and refining the tool. On the right, you will see the ethical and transparency and legal safeguards. And this is for reinforcing human oversight, ensuring accountability, protecting privacy and data security, communicating clearly with the public. That's a question of transparency, and importantly, considering environmental sustainability from the outset. Together, these considerations help ensure that any AI tool explored are aligned with consumer protection principles and legal safeguards. To make the checklist concrete and useful in practice, it draws on cases studied from agencies that are already exploring AI. This is the case of Poland, from the Polish tool that it was presented earlier. Also, the hybrid decision drafting support in El Salvador to integrate AI platform for complaint handling in Thailand, and knowledge management in the Republic of Korea, and to the early stages pilot in Zambia that I just mentioned. These examples demonstrate that there is no single path to adoption, and that meaningful progress is possible from any starting point, even where resources and technical capacities are limited. Finally, the checklist is a living document. AI evolves quickly, and so will our understanding of risks, opportunities, and operational needs. We expect and we welcome updates as new tools emerge and more authorities gain experience in deploying AI. Above all, this work shows that any consideration of AI goes beyond technology. It involves governance choices grounded in fairness, accountability, and of course, the public interest. We hope the checklist will serve as a practical companion for agencies considering whether, when, and how to deploy AI, always with consumer rights and the well-being at its core. So thank you very much.
Great, fantastic, Valentina, for this presentation of the checklist and its main tenant. So I think it's now time to hear from Indicopy, who will be our panelist today to comment on the checklist. And Luis, for many developing countries, the main barrier to AI adoption is about resources and data quality. Could you perhaps talk a little bit more to us about Indicopy's experience in adapting an open source model, and has this experience inform your enforcement work, and what lessons do you think it could offer some other agencies that are listening to us today?
Thank you, Professor Christine. Thank you, Valentina. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, buenos días, buenas tardes. I'd like to thank God. I'd like to thank UNCTAD for the opportunity, for inviting us as Indicopy. We're very happy and we're very glad to contribute to all the great work that you're doing. And I would like to address the question that you asked us by sharing some slides and telling you a little bit about our story, the story of our first project that we deploy using AI. So I think it will help us to understand a little bit more on this practical way of deploying AI and how the checklist could be very helpful. So, well, I would like to tell you about the story of collaboration and perseverance. And this story begins in 2019 when Peru was in the second place of the countries that received more spam calls worldwide. So it was a big problem. Actually, according to recent data, we found out that just one company make 51 million unsolicited calls monthly in a country with a population of 30 million. So it's a lot of data and a lot of calls, and it was very big. And our initial approach, it was a traditional enforcement approach. We ask companies for call logs, we take samples and listen to recordings to verify compliance. So what we did was listen manually all the calls that were made, well, a sample of the calls, so we can find there was it was a violation of the consumer rights. And yeah, a main barrier that we found, it was data quality. Actually, in this case, I would like to emphasize that we didn't make an AI model. We adapt a model that already existed. And this model is called Whisper. And this model helps us to transcribe audios to text. So what we had at the beginning, it was a lot of calls with a lot of information, but that information was often irrelevant to the enforcement work that we were doing, because at the time, because there were many calls, people weren't answering the questions. So what we had was a lot of calls, but empty calls with nobody talking. So we weren't able to discriminate and find the ones that had the promotion content. So our starting point was to focus on the consumers. Actually, this is very important because at the beginning we weren't thinking of AI. So this is like 2023. We were just thinking on the tools that were the most efficient to solve this problem. And as it was mentioned before, we had limited technical resources. We had just like ordinary computers, like you have in any consumer protection agency. And we had a strategic shift in 2023. We embraced programming to improve our enforcement capabilities. We started to use Python and R. And during our research to solve this problem that we had, we found a library called Whisper. And this library was different to the other ones that we were using it by the time. We found out that this library was based on AI. So for us, it was like, okay, this is new, but that helped us to be more curious about it and what was behind that. So we had a diverse team composition. We were just economists and lawyers, and well, lawyers specialized in span, and we have a bridge profile that was a legal tech coordinator that helped us to merge those worlds, the economists and the lawyers, and we start our journey on this AI project. We face resistance because when we said that we will be using AI, we face some challenges. First of all, companies raised concerns about the data privacy and how we were using AI. So what we did was provided transparent communication. We actually tell them that how we work with AI. In this case, what we did was to run this model locally. So none of the information that of the audios were sending to another external, it wasn't uploaded to the internet. It was just in our computers, the 30 computers that we had, the normal computers of any consumer protection agency. And I remember we were coding this model in each computer. So we were just like one computer by one computer coding and making this code work. We started to build trust also. We call our IT office. I think that many of the consumer protection agencies have an IT office, so we ask for the specialists, and we ask them also to help us. And we start to make documentation and put some standards, ethical standards, to mitigate this resistance and that we faced at the beginning. And then we start to scaling up. We, with the first results, we had like quick wins. And the first quick win was that we increased the speed of transcription. Actually, what we did was to process and transcribe over 5.8 million calls just in 4 months. It's a task that manually it would have been taking years to do it. And we found this transformative impact combining an open source AI, and we show this efficiency that we gain with this initiative. And just to conclude, I would like to highlight and again congratulate UNCTAD for this checklist that I think will help as a practical guidance to many other agencies that want to deploy AI. And well, I think that one of the things that I found on the checklist very important is to define the problem clearly. As I said to you, first, we weren't thinking of AI at the beginning. We were just thinking about the problem and how we could solve that problem. Actually, a good phrase that I think sums up this is like fall in love with the problem, not with the solution. So first you have to be very focused on the problem and then understand how this AI tool in this case will help you and can help you to address this task. You have to use accessible tools. And in this case, we use open source models. And it was very cheap. And the use of these models help us then to increase and scale up and find or acquired EPUs and other solutions with more technological advance that we could increase the speed of how we transcribe the audios. And it is really, really important to be transparent about AI usage. And in this case, it's more important to document all the process that you have, just in the practical way when you're deploying an AI project. You have to be very conscious that some concerns will be raised. So all of the things that you can document and put it on text, you have to do it because it is very important. And later, that will help you to address these challenges. So especially when you face some legal concerns and privacy concerns of the data. And finally, the AI model is when you deploy an AI project, it's very important to be scalable and replicable. So that will help other agencies to do it as well. So as in the copy, we're very happy to to share this experience, and with this, to show how this practical guidance, this checklist will help other agencies. So that was what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this experience, which I think shows that indeed one of the important things we were trying to do when we were doing that work is creating the connections between agencies, is agencies being able to say, we're doing this, do you want it? Because it's so expensive and time consuming and resource intensive, as Martina was explaining, to develop those solutions. And obviously the technology companies that are using it and the businesses that are using it have got many more resources. It's very important that international collaboration enables this. Now, we'd already heard of some agencies helping each other and meeting up and trying to work on how they could harness each other's solution, but I'm very much welcome Indicopy's offer to have their tool disseminated as well, so that others can benefit from their experience in developing it, but also from the data sets that come. Now, very often what we have found when I was doing research is there are many agencies that didn't traditionally collect a lot of data. And I hope that at the very least, the launch of the technical note and of the checklist can lead agencies to start reflecting on what data they can have access to and how they can start building those databases, because it's very important, or what alternative solutions are out there. And I was again delighted to hear, Lewis, that you went with open source data sets. You actually went and found the information where you could find it to develop your tool. And indeed, that's also a possibility. Now, what we heard today is really only a snapshot of what is happening and a tiny, tiny, tiny tip of the iceberg. That is the use of AI in consumer protection. I think we have a tiny little bit of time if there was any question that presented itself. I know I've already answered quite a few, and apologies to the person I kind of cancelled, which wasn't the button I wanted to press, but Valentina will email you the answer. Otherwise, is there any new questions that came up or any other aspects? So perhaps I could ask, since we have a few minutes left, all our panelists to tell us two things, because we don't have time for three, that they think any agencies picking up the technical note or the checklist need to think of. What are the most two important things for our participants to take away from today? Could we start with you, Moon? You're on mute.
Well, it was good learning that I listened your research and then also checklist. I think the checklist is quite practical for users. And still, we need to think about two things when we are thinking about AI, like using AI and protecting from AI is quite different approaches. So we need to be clear what we are talking is about the AI deploying or AI using or protecting consumers from AI. So that one is the first thing. And then second, what I'm doing as a COPOCO chair, I'm COPOCO and ISO, we're trying to increase consumer benefit through the standardization. That's the first thing that we do, because there are a lot of work a lot of standards already developed and then developing. And then also, second thing is we're trying to address critical consumer issues through the standards, through the standardization. So AI has a positive way and negative way, but we need to address critical issues from AI use. So through the standardization. So that's the second thing that we are doing right now. So in that way that maybe we can be part of your effort that because we just published, just like your research, like AI white paper, that just this year. So it includes the consumer concerns and consumer perspectives and also the consumer suggestion. So maybe, yeah, it can be, we can share this AI white paper too. So in many ways that we have we doing very close things, like same things for consumer protection, but it's not just the protection, but it's like consumer participation in AI innovation. So I'm glad that I can be part of this discussion. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Martina, I'll hand over to you. Two things as person on the ground.
Thank you. Thanks, Christina. I have one most important. I think it's very important to think about this process in a holistic manner, because it's not just really about using or taking it, just doing it for the sake of doing it and doing AI because everybody does it. It's really a very helpful solution. It's a transformation, and it's the very same transformation that we went through in integrating IT communication tools into our work. So it's the scale is different. It's much deeper, much wider, much more complex, but it's analogical in a way. So so we really need to think about this holistically in a way of how we I agree also with what Louis said, that one important aspect of it is to think about the problem. So we should think about what problems we want to address in a holistic manner, considering also the wider context, such as company culture, because it's not just about integrating the tool and integrating the tool, but really about sustaining it and making sure that it really sticks, that the staff is really using it, that we can then scale it to the entire company and snowball it further, so that we are continuing to develop further, to integrate it really, and to embrace the transformation. So that would be from me. Thank you.
Great. And Louis, you already kind of told us quite a bit, but I wonder if you had a reaction on what you heard today.
Well, I think it is, as Martina said, also it is very important to focus on the problem because it is important to understand how this AI tool can address whatever you're facing as a consumer protection agency and the challenges that you are facing, particularly in your country, and the legal aspect and everything. And it's very important. And another thing that I would like to emphasize as well is it is important to encourage curiosity, because most of the time when we are working with these innovative tools, and this is like as you said, Christine, the tip of the iceberg. You need a team that is very curious and find and leverage the resources that you have. You know, it might be limited, but with all the information that there is on the internet, you can always get a bit more, and you can have just a tool that could be useful, and then you might be able to scale up that tool. So that is very important.
Fantastic. Well, I think on that note, and hearing from the ground, I'd like to thank everyone that contributed today. It's been a great honor for me to see some of my academic work transform into something a little bit more concrete. It's quite rare for academics to do that. So I'd like to thank UNCTAD once again, and I'm handing over to Valentina and to the UNCTAD Secretariat to close this session.
Thank you very much for being with us today. We have over 90 participants, so this demonstrates the interest and the importance of the topic. We will circulate the presentations as well as the link to the video that will be in YouTube, so you can also have a look later on or share it with persons that you think that could be interested of this. And also to encourage you to keep posted to the activities of the informal working group on consumer protection and e-commerce that we are kicking off very soon. Thank you very much, and until the next webinar.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.